Israel has killed at least 45 people across Gaza and heavy strikes hit the north and south of the coastal enclave. Moscow claims to be ready to facilitate a dialogue between Tehran and Washington on Iran's nuclear program, provided that the legitimate interests of the Persian country are respected. And over 123 wildfires have been recorded in Mexico, affecting some 53,000 hectares of land. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information. Israel has killed at least 45 people across Gaza on Friday as heavy strikes hit the north and south of the coastal enclave that also suffers from a severe humanitarian crisis due to the Israeli blockade. According to on-ground reports, 6 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli air raid that hit a makeshift barber shop in central Khan Yunis, while at least 10 others were killed after Israel bombed a home in Bani Suhaila. Attacks in Rafah in the south, Gaza City, and Atwam in the north, targeting tents and houses, also left a number of fatal casualties. Over 51,000 Palestinians have been massacred by Israel since October of 2023. As strikes on Gaza continue, despite warnings from the UN and measures from the International Court of Justice.
I was sleeping and woke up to my house collapsing on top of me. I didn't hear the sound of a missile or anything else. The house was collapsing. I got out and didn't know what was happening. People opened the door and started carrying my sons. 8 of our family were killed. We were 21 people.
Meanwhile, a protest movement led by nearly 1,000 Israeli Air Force veterans signing letters calling for an immediate end to the Gaza war has rapidly spread across the Israeli military, with thousands of reservists and retired soldiers from multiple elite units. These letters accuse Prime Minister Netanyahu's government of prolonging the conflict for political reasons, exposing deep divisions and growing disillusionment within Israeli society and the military over the war's purpose and its costs. The Israeli military responded by dismissing active reservists who signed the protest, while Netanyahu dismissed the dissent as the work of a small foreign-influenced minority, claiming that it was unsupported by evidence. The crisis has strained the military's reliance on reservists, with increasing numbers refusing to report for duty.
We are aware of the relative importance and weight of the brand Israeli Air Force pilots, and thought that it is exactly the kind of case where we should use this title in order to influence the society. The letter is not talking to the army, is not talking to pilots. He's aimed, and therefore we're not calling for any refusal or anything that the soldiers should do. As we thought, the moment that this letter was published, the whole country is talking about it for the past 3-4 days, and many other units of the army, of the armed forces, have followed us. There were letters by the armor units, thousands of them have signed, by the paratroopers, by the intelligence, by the Navy, and the special units, and many others. It's crystal clear that the renewal of the war is for political reasons and not for security reasons. It's very clear. The radical ministers have not even tried to hide it. They didn't do it behind closed door. They announce it every day. Either he renews the war or...
Meanwhile, in Yemen, at least 74 people were killed after U.S. bombing raids on the oil port of Ras Isa on the Red Sea coast. The United States Central Command carried out a series of airstrikes along the western coast of Yemen, this time targeting the oil port of Ras Isa, also injuring 171 people. The attack is one of the deadliest since the U.S. launched airstrikes against the Houthis and U.S. President Donald Trump took office in January. It should be noted that the operation came days after the Ansarullah movement announced on March 12th a ban on the entry of Israeli-linked vessels into regional waters in response to the Israeli blockade on aid entering the Gaza Strip. And in this context, the spokesman of the Yemeni armed forces, Yahya Saree, announced the launching of retaliatory attacks targeting U.S. aircraft carriers in the Red and Arabian Seas following the strikes on the Ras Isa oil port, warning that the continued U.S. aggressions would only lead to further confrontation.
The missile force, the unmanned aerial vehicle, and the naval forces carried out a double military operation targeting the U.S. aircraft carriers Truman and Vinson and their warships in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea, with a number of cruise missiles and drones. This was the first operation against the Vinson since its arrival in the Arabian Sea. The United States military buildup and continued aggression against our country will only lead to further attacks, targeting, clashes, and confrontations.
Now, in other topics, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed on Friday that Moscow is ready to facilitate dialogues between Tehran and Washington on Iran's nuclear program, provided that the legitimate interests of the Persian country are respected. During a joint press conference with his Iranian counterpart, Abbas Araghchi, Lavrov stated that they welcome the readiness to reach objective and mutually acceptable agreements. Furthermore, the head of the Russian diplomacy underscored that the best way to reach a pact is for the negotiations to focus exclusively on nuclear issues. For his part, Araghchi assured that his country would participate with seriousness and willingness in the talks, but warned that an unrealistic demand of the United States could hinder the process. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. The president of China, Xi Jinping, ended on Friday his tour of Southeast Asia as part of his strategy to strengthen alliances in the region and also confront the U.S. tariff war. The 5-day tour of the Chinese head of state began on Monday in Vietnam. Then the leader headed for Malaysia and completed his agenda in Cambodia. During his official visit, Xi Jinping signed dozens of cooperation deals in various areas and held meetings to boost diplomatic relations to strengthen regional unity. The president further called for integration to build up a multipolar world based on cultural diversity in favor of global economic stability. And U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday stepped back from what already appears to be a lonely fight with China after Beijing said it would ignore the tariff game. The president himself told reporters in Washington that he would not like to see tariffs on China continue to increase, and also confessed that he was hopeful of reaching an agreement. The announcement was made after the Asian stock markets, driven by China, presented a notorious increase in contrast with the collapse of Wall Street and the U.S. dollar. The head of state blamed it on Jerome Powell, the president of the Federal Reserve, and not on his tariff war against the world. And after U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen announced on Thursday that a military squad had prevented him from entering El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, President Nayib Bukele authorized his entry. In this way, the senator for the state of Maryland, where the Salvadoran citizen Kilmer Abrego Garcia resided, was able to meet with him and deliver messages from his family. The congressman published a photo of the meeting in his social network, stating that when he returned to the United States, he would give details of the situation. Abrego, against whom no crime is pending and whose return has been ordered by the Supreme Court of Justice, returned to the confinement where President Donald Trump and his partner, President from El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, are holding him hostage. We go now to Puerto Rico as the nation experienced a massive power outage on Wednesday that affected over 1 million customers. On Thursday morning, Puerto Rico Governor Jennifer González Colón said in a press conference that the blackout was caused by a transmission failure. For their part, Luma Energy, the power company servicing the Caribbean nation, together with the governor, Colón admitted in a statement that the work to restore electricity among those affected could take between 48 and 72 hours, adding that the poor condition of the equipment slows the recovery process. In this regard, authorities informed on Friday that the service had been restored to 99% of the customers. And in other news, Colombia is on alert due to a rise in yellow fever cases. In this context, President Gustavo Petro announced his intention to decree an economic and sanitary emergency in the country. Our correspondent, Hernán Tobar, with the details.
These vaccination points are located at the transportation terminal in the capital city of Bogotá. In view of the alarm caused by the increase in cases of yellow fever in Colombia and its high temperature and humidity zones, travelers to these regions are coming to Colombia as a protective measure and for fear of contracting it through the bite of the mosquito that transmits it.
I am panicking because if I get yellow fever, I know that it is deadly. I know that there is an epidemic of more than 50% of patients have died. So the truth is that I am going on a trip to Valledupar and I am going to get vaccinated.
An emergency situation that the president warned through social networks. He said that the disadvantage is presented by the climate crisis, lethal in densely populated areas such as cities. He added that it has a mortality rate of 50% and that out of 74 human cases discovered, 32 people have died, most of them in the department of Tolima. In another tweet, he said that in the Colombian capital, there may be several cases due to the travel of Bogotá citizens to risk areas during Easter week, a situation that must be counteracted through prevention not only in Bogotá, but throughout the country.
It is a virus transmitted by jungle mosquitoes of the genus Hemagogus or Sabethes, and it is a cycle that is there in the jungles, in the forests that occurs between monkey and mosquito. Occasionally, when people enter these forests or parks, for example, where this zoonosis occurs naturally, they can also acquire this disease. The mosquitoes can bite them and they can also get yellow fever.
In view of this situation, the Colombian president announced that in the next few hours he would decree an economic emergency and then a sanitary emergency. In view of the probability of an increase in the number of cases of contagion and the possibility of it spreading to densely populated cities, the Department of Cundinamarca has already declared a state of alert due to the outbreak of yellow fever.
The economic emergency seeks to obtain the resources to deal with this situation. The fiscal crisis that the state is going through and that the president himself has recognized and has given his explanations as to why we are in the situation we are in. This decree would allow the attainment of extraordinary resources in a quick and efficient manner, which is what is needed at this moment to deal with this crisis, to supply the hospitals and clinics with the necessary medicines and equipment to avoid a major crisis in the future.
The virus is having an incidence in departments where there had been no history of yellow fever, suggesting an indicator of possible infection in non-endemic areas, which is why the vaccine is essential to counteract contagion in high-temperature areas.
Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Mexico, over 123 wildfires have been recorded on Thursday in 28 out of 32 states, affecting some 53,000 hectares of land. The National Forestry Commission, CONAFOR, stated that wildfires remain active in some 28 states of the country. They further detailed that northwest and south central regions have been hit the most. Flames are being spread to cities such as Sinaloa, Chihuahua, Oaxaca, and Morelos, and the commission briefed that so far firefighters have managed to control 31 fires. Furthermore, CONAFOR requested the community to be aware of the situation so they can avoid burning garbage, throwing lit cigarettes, among other actions that could set a fire. Meanwhile, in northern Italy, heavy rainfalls brought about damages in addition to the overflowing of rivers, power outages and evacuations, namely in the Piemonte region. Likewise, authorities issued a red alert for Tuscany and Emilia-Romagna. In this context, Florentine authorities ordered the closure of monuments, museums and other cultural sites in their city. Since past Thursday, heavy precipitations have been pouring in these areas. As a result, firefighters and emergency personnel have been deployed at sites prone to floodings or landslides. In the case of Piemonte, the president of the region noticed that the weather forecast had estimated torrential rainfalls would get worse for the upcoming hours, so the authorities urged people to be alert and reported having neither death nor injured reported so far. And we go now to other topics. The Venezuelan Minister of Defense, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, ratified that the Essequibo is a Venezuelan territory sacred to the soldiers of the homeland, which will be defended in all instances. The Chief of National Defense explained what the territory means for the men and women of the Bolivarian Armed Force and did not avoid confessing that they will defend it with all their resources. Also, he stated that this territory, historically the target of great powers such as the United States and the United Kingdom, as well as its resources and its inhabitants, is defended by the government and the Bolivarian Revolution in the face of the irresponsible, disrespectful, and illegitimate conduct of the President of Guyana, Irfan Ali, instrumentalized by Washington and ExxonMobil Oil Company. This all part of the address.
The Essequibo is a sacred thing for us, and we're going to defend it with our fingernails in any scenario. It is a Venezuelan territory. It is a historically Venezuelan territory, and we are resorting to legality, appealing to real justice, to all the historical truth, so that this territory returns, and returns as it should after the fraudulent imperial maneuvers of 1899, and returns again to where it should be, which is to Venezuelan territory.
And Ecuador's National Electoral Council, the CNE, informed that the processing of the electoral records had concluded in 24 provinces, almost 12 hours after the president of the Citizen Revolution, Luisa González, denounced serious electoral crimes committed during the campaign and throughout the electoral process. The highest body informed that it only remains to process the tally sheets with news of the 3 constituencies abroad, where, for example, citizens residing in Venezuela did not get to vote due to a last-minute decision of the CNE. It is important to highlight that observers of the electoral missions of the Organization of American States and also of the European Union pointed out very serious faults during the campaign and also during the voting day. And in Cuba, the 19th edition of the Jibara International Poor Film Festival brings together works from many nations that offer a diverse panorama of audiovisual creation on a contemporary scale, as well as presenting diverse languages and an interest in telling stories through budgets that range from simplicity to a more conceptual aesthetic. Let's see.
This is the image of that creative Jibara, a movie town, which enchants everyone who comes to this place in eastern Cuba. So says Elena, who arrives from Malaga, Spain.
I love Jibara. I would always come back to Jibara, and there is no festival like this, in which so many things are mixed, and also with the purpose it has.
25 films were chosen from the host nation, 11 from Argentina, 9 from Spain, 6 each from Mexico and Peru, and 5 each from Colombia, the United States, Chile, and Uruguay. This year, the competition is being held in the category of films under construction, in support of films to be made in the future, and this year's competition is even stronger due to the presence for the second time of Horizonte, which is joined by the Mexican studio Churubusco.
Responds precisely to support films of what is called cinema under construction.
Películas que están en proceso de edición, en proceso de su montaje y desarrollo.
Films that are in the process of editing, and development to reach the final product so that the support represents the possibility of completing the product.
De completar el producto.
The event has among its precepts to defend and promote the creation of the seventh art of low resources with a high aesthetic proposal, establishing itself as a cinematographic reference for Cuba and the world.
When I see a film, even if I am a filmmaker, I can analyze it at the level of script, photography, sound, whatever you want.
The
first thing I notice is that when the film ends, I get goosebumps and my eyes water. Of course, later, with the jury, we start debating that this is so, and it was better. But I think the essential thing is the emotion.
Long live Jibara, that fishing village, which these days becomes the capital of cinema in Cuba, a unique experience to be lived at the festival.
Danis Rodríguez Laurencio, teleSUR, Jibara, Cuba.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For teleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.